I attempted a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Black 2, where every time I wiped, this happened. Recently, I've been procrastinating a lot on learning how to code, and I started wondering, how is it that I can play video games for hours, but I can't even focus on schoolwork for more than 10 minutes without needing a break? I thought to myself, maybe I can use my addiction for Pokemon to beat procrastination once and for all. So here are the rules. It's a hardcore Nuzlocke, but with a twist. For every gym badge that I get, I add a new feature to my app, and if I lose, I start from scratch. With the rules out of the way, let's get into it. I begin my journey with the obvious best starter, and we were off. First encounter was a Patrat, and next I caught a cat. And yeah, that didn't last long, but I got a Mareep, and after lots of grinding, I was ready to take on the first gym. Now normal stab and workup make this fight scary, but I'd come up with a strategy. By paralyzing and dropping the accuracy of his Pokemon, I wouldn't have to risk losing Tepig. With the first badge acquired, I planned out how my app was gonna look. In the next city, I caught a Magnemite, which is hands down the best encounter. And after starring in a movie, I was ready to take on the second gym. This was an absolute cakewalk. Between Pignite and Magnemite, my second badge was free. I spent some time recreating my design and code and moved on to the big city, where it's grass-type gym leader. Yeah, it was such an easy sweep that I forgot to record it. With a third badge, I added GPS to my app and moved on to Nimbasa City. This is where my inexperience really began to shine. I bumped into a random trainer who almost caused me to wipe. I didn't understand how Hyperfang worked, so I kept switching Pokemon thinking that his was just absolutely cracked out of its mind. But once I realized how little danger I was actually in, I killed him with Pignite. It's clear I've got a lot to learn before I become the champion. Not wanting to take any more risks, I catch a Sandile, and I use it to destroy the fourth gym. With the fourth badge, I learned how to get weather data through an API. This is what it looks like. It's ugly, but it's useful. With my app halfway done, I was feeling invincible. I was cheesing everybody with accuracy drops, workups, and flame charges. My strategy was invincible. Just steamroll everyone, and yeah, I lost. I was devastated. I not only lost my progress in the game, but I lost all the hard work that I put into this app. Going into the next run, I knew something had to change. I made two massive discoveries that would change the game. First, I learned I could run my game at 32 times the native resolution. And more important, I found a walkthrough. This not only let me plan my encounters better, but also build better strategies for bosses. For this run, I changed my strategy. I selected Oshawott because having a guaranteed steel type is OP, and after losing to my rival and resetting over 10 times, this happened. I found the Pokemon that would carry me through this run. Not only is Lucario awesome, but Riolu evolves based on friendship, so after running around for way too long, I had a Lucario at level 6. Charon wasn't ready for what was about to hit him. In fact, none of the gym leaders were. Skywalker easily swept through the first 3 gym leaders on his own. With 3 badges under my belt, I came up with a new app design and built it out with GPS. After exploring the desert, I was back at Nimbasa City. My ground types made quick work of the gym leader, and I made sure I was able to get weather data. And before I knew it, I was face to face with Clay. I didn't just want to win, I wanted to crush him, so I left nothing to chance. I PP stalled his first Pokemon until it only had ground moves. Then I brought in Lucario on a balloon to destroy Clay's Pokemon. With the 5th badge, I added geo-translation, so I wasn't doxing myself every time I showed this app. And after that, I was forced to do a tournament where my strategy ultimately led to my downfall. I was so focused on getting a good setup that I let my opponent set up on me. I was in range of getting one-shot, so I kept stacking on ailments hoping that he would kill himself in confusion. But instead, he broke through 6 sand attacks, confusion, and sleep to kill my best setup Pokemon. After mourning the loss of Nomar, it was time to move on to the next city. I caught Litwick and Anaxu, and my team was looking stacked. Pretty soon, I was ready for the 6th gym. Since her first Pokemon was a physical attacker, I brought Ducky to drop its attack, and we lost her. But it's okay because I have an even more broken sweeping strat. After 6 smoke screens, I brought out my new secret weapon. I built up 6 Dragon Dances, and yeah, time to pivot again. If only I had an incredibly broken Pokemon that I could use to sweep. I didn't want to risk Kevin, so I went into Samurai. Good thing its steel type resists flying.
NANI?!
Okay, so let's just say a lot of bad assumptions were made this fight, but I got out with minimal losses and began adding a notification section to my app. I went to a spooky house to get a Chandelure, and my team was getting pretty saucy. I was surprised by my rival who gave me more trouble than expected. I ended some guy's winning streak and then went on to the 7th gym. My strategy hadn't changed. I switched between Fart and Bandit to lower attack and accuracy and then sweep with Waffle. With the 7th badge, I was finally able to get my app to display live weather data to the screen. We got attacked by an ice cannon, ambushed by some ninjas, and then I was off to the 8th gym. And this fight was scary. Shell Smash on the lead Pokemon meant that I couldn't risk setting up on it, but I had a secret weapon. By leveling up Imposter without evolving him, I was able to get the most broken move in Pokemon before the level cap. I quickly put it to sleep and killed it. After putting Wailord to sleep, I began my setup. With the 8th badge, I added the finishing touches to my app. And I have to say, I'm really proud of how it turned out. Feeling like a coding champion, I went on to save the world. On the way, while trying to catch one of my favorite Pokemon, I made a fatal mistake. This Ditto was now ready to sweep my entire team. I narrowly escaped a wipe and went into the cave to end Team Plasma. I started off strong but lost one of my best sweepers. I scrambled to recover, lost most of my team, and barely made it out alive. I need to be way more careful as I go into the Elite Four. And careful I was. Not. I lost Bayonetta pretty quick, but no amount of caution could have prepared me for the menace that was veteran Portia. She leads with the luckiest Zebra in the world, who manages to double flinch, crit, paralyze, and flinch my Pokemon before finally letting me get a hit in. Next is Starmie, who's apparently a Psychic type, and an absolute menace. The only way I can win is with Intimidate pivots until I feel like I can take the kill. And I ended up in this situation more than once. I got lucky against my rival, and after watching his Pokemon burn, I was at the door of the Elite Four. But there was still one more Mon to catch, and his name was Bob Ross. My team wasn't what I had planned originally, but they had the stuff. I started with the easiest challengers, and Altaria was putting in the work. With Dragon Dance, Roost, Leftovers, and Fly, she was able to sweep the first two challengers on her own. Next, I went into Caitlyn with the ultimate counter. I thought I could set up on her, but she went rogue and switched to her ace. I was able to recover, but it was just another thing to keep me on my toes. I saved the Ghost team for last because I was terrified of it. I gave Chandelure a metronome and prayed for a sweep. I one-shot the Coffin, Weather Balloon, and the Iron Giant before tragedy struck. Yeah, not EV training my Pokemon really bit me in the butt. I recovered, but now I'm facing the champion in a 5v6 for the final fight. I created a strategy, approached the champion, and began the fight. Her lead is a powerhouse, but I took him out with a gym-boosted Dragon Pulse. I gave up Sunny for some chip damage and brought in Bandit, thinking it would be an easy kill. Instead, Lapras tanks the Earthquake and fires back with a Surf. I bring in Beemo, who puts in the work against Lapras, eventually bringing it down, and crit Paras the next Pokemon before going down itself. Next, I bring in Bob Ross for the revenge kill, and not knowing how reversal works, I go for it at full health. This was embarrassing, but for some reason, I kept going for it, and take it out after 3 turns. She brings in Haxorus, who takes down Bob Ross with an Earthquake, and Bandit with an X-Scissor. I bring in Pog, who gets a lucky Drain Punch crit, but isn't able to close the deal. And that's it. I was one Pokemon away from beating the champion. I already have a completed app. I could just call it quits and be done with this stupid challenge. Or I could start from scratch and become a real champion. It took me 3 days to recover from that loss, so I had to finish this challenge soon. Having realized that Samurott is not a steel type, I went back to the best starter and swept the first 4 gems, adding features to my app with each badge. Along the way, I also got a Prankster Cottony, a Regenerator Audino, Moxie Sandile, and one of the most broken Pokemon in the game, Guts Heracross. I took special care to humiliate Clay with a pig on a balloon, translated my GPS coordinates into locations again, and swept through the tournament without suffering any losses. This unlocked the most OP items in the game. I purchased the choice items, a Focus Sash, Bright Powder, Life Orb, and a Flame Orb for my Guts users. With these items, I was on my way for a rematch with the 6th gem. I was ready to avenge the blood of Ducky, but my team wouldn't be complete without one final team member. With Emolga, I was ready. My sweep was cut short by an Attract, so I switched to Onyx, who easily took out the bat. I switch in Emolga to resist the water move, and it gets a lucky crit, but I use Volt Switch to set up my Magmar against her Skarmory. Sturdy prevents the crit from killing, so I take time to humiliate her with Confuse Rays and Smoke Screens until the Skarmory ends its own life to escape its suffering. With the 6th badge, I begin to work on the drop-down bar for my application. I fight with my rival, and then take on the 7th gem. I tried to get the full paralysis, and of course, she misses. Next, I send in Waving Cat for some sand attacks, and he takes her out, but her sacrifice was not in vain, because the accuracy drops provide a shield for Lizzo to come in and keep dropping the accuracy. That revenge probably could have ended me, but with his accuracy low, I take the risk to switch back into Joyce for some attack drops. Once the dragon is less threatening than a sack of potatoes, I set up and sweep. With the 7th badge, I had notifications that change based on the weather. Salute our fallen cat, and then I get ready to save the world again. But first, there was one final stop I had to make. Yeah, this thing is impossible to catch, so I use a Master Ball. But with him on the team, I was ready. I walked in the cave and began the fight. This is it, the legendary God of Ice versus my self-immolating bug. And after all those crazy fireworks and cutscenes, I take him out in one hit. But I still have the boss to fight, and I quickly sweep through him without losing a single Pokemon. Then I took N's advice and went through to the Elite Four. Victory Road was so much less dramatic, and before I knew it, I was at the steps of the Elite Four. I walked in with confidence, knowing that I had assembled the perfect team. We have Not Omar the Gliscor, Lumiere the Chandelure, Teos the Heracross, Lizzo the Croc, Dilbert the Sweeper, and Dr. Bots, who's an absolute monster. We start off with the weakest challenger by far, and after realizing that Metagross's speed can't be dropped, it's an easy sweep. Next is Caitlyn, and she tries to pull a fast one on us, but we see it coming and steamroll her with Moxie boosts. We beat the Dark team by lighting our bug on fire and telling it to punch anything that moves. And finally, the most terrifying of the four. But I wasn't afraid. You see, I'd attached a Choice Scarf to my Chandelure so that it would, yeah, all that Eevee training, all those items, and I still got sauced. As I walked up the steps to the champion, I knew I had to make a strategy if I didn't want a repeat of last run. After a little bit of prep, a lot of planning, and a whole bunch of prayer, I began the fight. Starting off the battle, I wasn't taking any chances. I pulverized her first Pokemon, and she brings out Archeops, the Pokemon that ended my run last time. I switch into bots, and I use a weak Bullet Punch to get it into Defeatist range. Then I begin to flex on it as I buff and heal more than it can even damage me. Once my health is higher, I take it out. Aggron counters me pretty hard, but I bring in Omar to do some damage. He swings one last time at Lapras before meeting an Icy Fate. I use Facade to take out Lapras and do Mondo damage to the next Pokemon. And then, my bug is able to tank a Flamethrower and burn damage for one last Facade. I bring in Lizzo for the Moxie boost, and with the extra XP, I now have a hard counter to her Ace. I may have lost Lizzo, but after that, one Bullet Punch is all it takes. And that's it. I had not only overcome the hardest Pokemon challenge of my life, but I had also overcome my procrastination and created a pretty cool app. And you know what? If you struggle with procrastination, I'd totally recommend this challenge. It's hard and can be annoying at times, but it's really rewarding and it's surprisingly motivating. If you want to see more apps, check out this video. Thanks again for watching.